Okay, we've been taught that healthy communication is always talking things out. No, 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 no. Sometimes the most emotionally intelligent thing you can do is to say something, of course. Sometimes it's to let it go. And sometimes what you're calling letting go is actually resentment you've decided not to talk about. Somebody hurt your feelings. Your partner says something that lands horribly. Your adult child crosses a boundary. Your sister does that thing that she's done 100 times that annoys you to no end. Your boss dismisses an idea at a meeting and you feel humiliated. A colleague takes credit for something you did, something that you contributed. And now you're having this internal conversation. Should I say something? Should I confront them? Am I making too much of this? Should I just let it go? In a lot of studies, this one in particular, examining 450 people or so on interpersonal conflicts, researchers found that when people avoided conflict, the conflict didn't disappear psychologically. It doesn't go away. Rumination afterward is what's inevitable. You ruminate it, sometimes around what researchers called festering anger, because we can leave the dialogue without leaving the conflict. So we can decide not to say anything and have the conversation 47 times in our head. We can say it's fine when it's clearly not. We can tell ourselves we're taking the high road while becoming colder, more distant, or more sarcastic toward the person. And we don't feel good when we're being that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I want you to put on your critical thinking caps for a minute here, because the answer is also not to confront everybody about everything. Research on intimate relationships has found that, and that's like with a partner or love interest, has found that direct communication can be beneficial when a problem is serious and something can actually change. But direct opposition can have costs when the problem is relatively minor or the other person isn't able to respond constructively. In other words, the context matters. I'll give you my example about laundry here in just a second. I've been married 30 years. We got laundry issues, okay? So in this episode of Say This Instead, it's a little bit different. I'm not simply going to give you 3 sentences to replace other sentences. I'm going to give you 3 decisions to make before you even open up your frickin' mouth. And then some language to use depending upon what you decide. Okay, high-level communication includes knowing when to communicate. Number 1, determine whether you're dealing with a moment or a pattern. This one distinction can prevent a lot. Oh, darn, there goes my dog. Sorry. When a neighbor walks by, she's protecting me. That's Cindy. Cindy? Okay, I'm on a video. I need to be quiet. I know, baby. Okay, she's going to calm down. Okay, back to number 1. And the barking happens occasionally. Cindy, stop. Okay, we're all done. Good girl. Number 1, determine whether you're dealing with a moment or a pattern. This one distinction can prevent a lot of unnecessary conflict. Your partner is exhausted and snaps at you, after dinner. Your daughter is distracted when you're talking to her. Your sister doesn't return your call. She forgets. Your colleague is unusually short with you in a meeting. Human beings have bad days. So do kids and grandkids. We all have bad days. We get tired. We become overwhelmed. We miss signals. We communicate wrong, imperfectly. Sometimes we simply say something really horrible in a horrible way. So if every imperfect interaction becomes a confrontation, eventually the relationship turns into a death spiral. It's all about conflict. You did this, I did that. So before you decide to address something, ask yourself, is this a moment or is it a pattern? Now, change the circumstances. Your partner repeatedly speaks to you with contempt. Your adult child continually ignores a boundary you've communicated. Your sister repeatedly makes jokes at your expense and then tells you you're too sensitive. Your colleague consistently interrupts you in meetings. Your boss repeatedly dismisses your thoughts, your contributions, and then uses the same idea later. That's different. We're no longer talking about one imperfect moment. We're talking about a pattern. And patterns deserve our attention. So instead of saying, you always do this, this is what you're going to say instead. I've noticed this has happened several times, and I'd like to talk about the pattern. And sometimes I get messages, especially in social media, like, nobody talks like that. That's right, you need to learn how, because it works. It frickin' works. This is for you to practice and have new words to communicate so you get your needs met. That's the game. Okay, listen to the difference. You always do this, attacks their identity, and invite somebody to immediately find the exception, and then it spirals into this. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. And then it becomes about who's right, who's wrong. Now you're fighting about the word always instead of talking about what actually happened. I know you guys can relate. I can relate to this, okay? I've noticed this happen several times, gives us something specific to discuss. At work, it could sound like, I've noticed that I've been interrupted several times when presenting this information, and going forward, I'd like to finish my thought before we move into questions, and I want to make sure you're aligned with that. At home, this has happened a few times when we disagree. I want us to find a different way of handling it. I like that. You're addressing the behavior without turning the behavior into a person's identity problem. Number 2, ask yourself whether you can genuinely let it go. Can you genuinely and authentically let it go? Not whether you should let it go, whether you actually can. That's the key question. This is where we need to be extremely honest with ourselves, because there's a significant difference between choosing not to address something that really bothers you and upsets you and pretending something didn't bother you, right? You can say no big deal and tell 4 people what happened. You know what I'm talking about. You can say, I'm choosing peace, and then punish the person for the next week because they did that thing. You can say nothing to a colleague and then stop including them in conversations and actually push them out in any belonging conversations. You can tell your partner everything's fine and become emotionally distant. That's not letting go. That's storing resentment. And eventually your storage unit is going to get full. So this conflict avoidance research that I mentioned found that rumination after avoidance was common. So if you leave the conversation but continue having it internally, the conflict may still be taking up significant emotional energy. I'm hoping you don't hear stuff. We got people in my neighborhood doing sidewalk stuff, all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to keep going. Okay. And it's another reason why you're exhausted. Here's a critical thinking question. If I never discuss this with this person, can I genuinely release it? Can I see them tomorrow and not punish them? Can I stop rehearsing it in my head? Can I stop collecting evidence? Can I stop telling other people about it and how upset I am? Can I allow this to become something that happened rather than something I continue carrying? If the answer is yes, letting it go can be a powerful, extremely delicious choice. And if you choose that, you don't say fine, whatever. You say this instead to yourself. This is an internal dialogue. I'm choosing not to make this bigger. I'm releasing it. And that's a decision. So here's the deal about the laundry. My husband has ADHD. I'm allowed to say that out loud. This past weekend, we both worked like 16 hours. We're fixing windows. We're downsizing, getting rid of stuff. We both have worked our butts off. And I go into the bedroom. He's left to go off and do his thing today. I work from home. And his laundry is all over the floor. And I can just feel the whoosh up my body, okay? My husband is not as efficient and organized as me. Not even close, okay? We've had the laundry on the floor conversation probably a billion times in our 30 years of marriage. And here's the thing. He's going to do his laundry. I don't do his laundry anymore. That shifted about 20 years ago. He's going to do his laundry when it works for him and he's not overwhelmed managing a bunch of things. He processes very differently than me. So can I let this go as I'm picking something up in the bedroom? Can I let it go that he did this with the laundry? Is this worth confronting him about? No, it's not. It's not. All it's going to do is push us apart. Can I genuinely let it go in the moment? I can, because I can give him the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? He's worked 16 hours, 18 hours this whole weekend. He's fixed windows, done all kinds of things. I know how full he is. Would I prefer that he picked this stuff up? Yeah. Can I let this go and give him the benefit of the doubt for all the other stuff he's doing right now? And the answer is yes, and I feel very clean, very good. I'm not going to come back at him sideways about the laundry in the bedroom. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is really cool things to do, especially in a partnership with someone that you love deeply and you're intimate with. Okay, so it's all about a decision, about choosing to release it. And if you discover that you can't release it, that's information too. Maybe there's a conversation there that matters. In this case with the laundry, I can release it. It's not that big on the scale of things that are important to me. Got it? Number 3, before confronting someone, decide what you actually want to be different. What do you want to be different? That's the piece most of us skip. We become hurt or angry and then immediately start planning the conversation. Do you want the behavior to change? Do you want a boundary respected? Do you want an apology? Do you want to understand what happened? Do you want to make a different agreement going forward? Or do you simply want the other person to know how angry you are to vent up your pent-up emotions? Those are very, very, very different goals. Sometimes we call something communication when what we're actually doing is delivering our emotional experience and venting to somebody else, hoping they'll do something with our emotional experience, okay? So before you speak, ask, what do I want to be different this time? What do I want to be different after this conversation? Now your communication becomes more intentional. Instead of, you obviously don't respect me, say this instead. Something happened in that conversation that I want us to handle differently next time. Something happened in this conversation that I want us to handle differently next time. So instead of, you never listen to me, that is automatic unconscious BS. When you say, you never listen to me, that's baby talk. Just so you know, that is baby talk. Say instead, I want to finish what I'm saying before you respond. I want to finish what I'm saying before you respond. Instead of, you don't respect my time, again, very young, automatic, knee-jerk reaction communication that will never make you happy, that will never get you what you need, never get you what you want. Say this instead. You know, we've started late several times. Going forward, I need us to start at the time that we agreed upon. Notice what we're doing here. We're moving away from telling somebody we love or care about or work with. We're not telling them who they are. We're communicating what happens and what needs to happen next. This is highly emotionally intelligent. This is critical thinking in action. And it takes something to do this. This isn't something you're going to do automatically. It's not. It's something you're going to practice. And there's another piece of research that supports the importance of context here. Research examining couples found that direct opposition could contribute to improvement when serious problems actually needed to change, while the same type of opposition could be unnecessarily costly when problems were relatively minor. In my instance, that's the frickin' laundry. That is relatively minor in the scheme of things in my world. Maybe it's not in yours. In mine, it is. Because I know eventually he's going to get to the laundry in his own time because he's going to need to clean his underwear. Okay, got it? All right. So always confront it isn't high-level communication. And at the same time, neither is just let it go. Discernment is your skill and your friend here. And sometimes after asking these 3 questions, you're going to discover something else. The person that you're talking to or communicating with may not be capable of giving you the conversation you want. Maybe you've already addressed this behavior many times. Maybe they've made it abundantly apparent that they're not interested in honoring your boundary or changing or whatever. Maybe the relationship doesn't have the capacity that you wish it had. That's when say this instead may become less about what you say to them and more about what you decide for yourself. Critical thinking at its finest. And maybe you stop explaining the boundary and start maintaining it. Maybe you change your expectations. Maybe you limit the amount of access somebody has to you. Maybe you forgive something. without pretending it was okay. Maybe you accept that they are not going to receive, you're not going to receive the apology that you deserve because they just frickin' can't. And maybe, and just maybe, you genuinely let it go. Critical thinking means understanding that communication is not automatically effective simply because we said it. That doesn't count. So the next time something happens, and when you're trying to decide, do I say something or do I let this go? Don't immediately confront and don't immediately suppress. You got 3 things to ask yourself. Is this a moment or a pattern? Can I genuinely let this go? And what do I want to be different after the communication? Then choose your communication. I am so cheering you on.